Hello and welcome to this week's news bulletin from the Christian Institute. David Cameron has failed to back religious tolerance as he was questioned about a Christian-run bakery facing legal action for declining to produce a pro-gay marriage campaign cake. The MacArthur family, who run Asher's Baking Company near Belfast, have been told their actions were illegal by the Equality Commission for Northern Ireland. They refused a request from an LGBT activist to produce a cake with the slogan "Support Gay Marriage" and a picture of Sesame Street's Bert and Ernie. DUP MP Gregory Campbell raised the case during Prime Minister's questions this week.
Does the Prime Minister agree that so-called equality is now being viewed by many as an oppressive threat to religious freedom? And does he further agree that such freedoms should be protected by the introduction of a conscience clause?
Well, I'm not aware of the specific case that the honourable gentleman raises, and of course I'll go away and have a look at it. But I do think a commitment to equality, in terms of racial equality, in terms of equality to those of different sexes, equality in terms of people who have disabilities, or indeed tolerance and equality of people who with different sexualities, all of that is a very important part of being British.
The Christian Institute is supporting the MacArthur family's legal case. Speaking to BBC World News, spokesman for the Institute Simon Calvert said this was nothing to do with turning away customers.
It's all to do with the content of the message that these Christian bakers were required to print. We can all think of situations where we might be asked to do something which goes so fundamentally against our core values that we just couldn't, in good conscience, do it. That point was reached for these bakers here, and now we've got the Equality Commission in Northern Ireland trying to force them to endorse same-sex marriage. I think most people think that that's just going much too far.
Former Tory Minister Anne Widdecombe has also spoken out against the Equality Commission's actions. Writing in the Daily Express, she said, "In a free country, the bakers should be able to refuse to take part in what is effectively PR for gay marriage, in the knowledge that any customers who do not like that decision are free to buy their morning loaf elsewhere." And you can show your support for Asher's Baking Company on social media sites Facebook and Twitter. A legal challenge has begun against Scotland's controversial named person plans. Papers opposing the initiative were lodged at Edinburgh's Court of Session by concerned groups and parents. Speaking outside the court, one of the parents, James McIntosh, explained.
I don't think that having a named person for every child in Scotland is a good idea. I think the desire perhaps is laudable from a child protection perspective to make sure that those who are most vulnerable are able to access help and know who to go to. And yet the vast majority of mums and dads, of carers, of parents are perfectly able to love their children and bring up their children and look after their children far better, knowing their children at a much deeper level, much more, and loving their children far more intimately than any named person, any state-appointed guardian.
The challenge is being backed by the Christian Institute, Christian Charity Care, ME support group Tymes Trust and the Family Education Trust. It follows warnings that the government's plans could be unlawful. The Named Person Initiative will see a state guardian assigned to every child between birth and 18 years old. They will be able to share confidential information, including medical records, with a wide range of public authorities and may intervene without parental consent. Critics explained what they hope for from the case.
Well, we hope the Court of Session, when it comes to consider the case, will agree with us that the named person scheme is a breach of European rules relating to a private and family life, and therefore outside the powers of the Scottish Parliament.
We hope the court will look very carefully at the arguments, realise that universality is the wrong way to go, throw out the named person scheme and the data mining and sharing.
We would hope that the judicial review would result in the named person being taken away completely, that it just no longer existed.
The Bishop of Oxford has called for Christian school assemblies to be replaced with a time of spiritual reflection. Bishop John Pritchard, who is the Church of England's head of education, claimed having a broad form of daily reflection, for example using silence, storytelling or music, would ease the pressure on schools. He said, "At that point where society and government feel it is right, I would want to go ahead with some kind of change, which I think would be liberating for this very important time in the school day. I would want to release it into spiritual reflection." Under the 1944 Education Act, schools must conduct acts of collective worship wholly or mainly of a broadly Christian character. An editorial in the Daily Telegraph criticised the bishop's comments, saying that Christian assemblies offer a chance for children to learn that the British values of which we hear so much are based on ancient Judeo-Christian beliefs and the teachings of the Bible. Why change something that has worked so well for so long? A father who suffers from multiple sclerosis says vulnerable people could feel pressure to kill themselves if assisted suicide is introduced. Speaking exclusively to the Christian Institute, Ian Bainbridge explained that despite the difficulties, life is worth living.
I don't know what the future holds medically. There could be major breakthroughs. It may be very difficult with MS in 20 years' time for me. But I've got a wife and son, and I want to be there for them. And I don't want them to see that I'm, backing out of life because I've got hardship.
Mr. Bainbridge made the comments as the House of Lords is set to debate the issue. On the 18th of July, peers will discuss Lord Falconer's Assisted Dying Bill, which seeks to introduce assisted suicide in England and Wales. Under his plans, terminally ill people would be allowed to obtain lethal drugs to kill themselves. But Mr. Bainbridge says society should look after the vulnerable.
And I think it's vital that if we're a civilised society, we affirm the value of every human life and also hold out hope that there could be a new treatment at any time. And I think if we allow people to give up hope, the investment in drugs and in technology and in the hospice movement as well will be curtailed.
To watch all the videos featured in our bulletin in full, plus much more, visit our website at christian.org.uk. Until next time, goodbye.